All right, so I propose in the interest of time that we jump right in with your permission. I have to leave by 1:45 at the latest. My apologies. So thank you for everyone for being here. Oh goodness, I need to swear in people. Lori, you might need to help me with that. I'm not sure the formality around that.
Anyone who will be testifying before the commission, you need to ask them to identify themselves or the hand.
All right.
And swear that they'll tell the truth, the whole truth. nothing but the truth.
All right, so those of you who will be testifying, can you introduce yourselves?
They just need to hand hold of their.
All right, that's it. Okay,
If you'll be
great.
speaking.
Fantastic. And will you tell the truth? Thank you. Seems like such a bizarre
Then you need to
formality.
Swear in the staff.
Oh, okay.
Then I will-
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you, thank you. All right, well, welcome, everyone. If we can move on to the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. I wasn't here, so. Yeah, you move? Do we have a second? Right, fantastic. So looks like we have those minutes approved. And then we'll jump in into a return application around the project with the artist Janet Eshelman. Yeah, thank you. You will introduce the project to us.
I did. This is our second presentation. Last time we kind of gave an overview of the sculpture, and we're here today to go over any details that you may want to inquire about. In particular, lighting and structural attachments to the four buildings that are being used to support the sculpture. So maybe, I think these might be in reverse order. Can we start at the bottom and go up?
I remember.
I mean, all the way to the bottom. Like, no, maybe not. Maybe, where did you start with the overview of this?
The images present different than the two pieces.
Lighting design concept.
Okay, let's go over the lighting design concept. Lighting is critically important to the piece. It adds some real vibrancy to this intersection. Lighting has been very carefully designed in consultation with a local lighting designer, theatrical designer, and the artist. The light fixtures are all mounted relatively low to ensure that light is directed up at the sculpture rather than across the sculpture. Not only for a more dramatic effect, but also to prevent light intrusion into adjacent uses, primarily residential uses. The fixture selected is a fairly compact theatrical fixture, very flexible, has a lot of different attachments as well as colorways. The next slide shows how slim it is, only 5.5 inches deep, 9 inches wide, and about 11.5 inches tall together with the yoke. This shows the lighting locations, some of the lighting locations. We'll work our way through this. These locations are on the southeast and southwest corners. All of the light fixtures have been designed to be mounted into mortar joints on these two structures, all the structures, so as to not compromise the historic material on the outside of the building. I should note that the project, including all the lighting details and structural modifications, has been approved by both the Downtown Commission and the Historic Resources Commission, which looked pretty carefully at these details. A little more photographic representation of the fixtures on the Citizens Building at the south west corner. Same thing on the southeast corner on the old Modern Finance Building. Now we're looking at the north buildings, northwest west corner and northeast corner. Again, fixture locations are low on the buildings with the exception of one high fixture to catch the highest point of the sculpture you'll see there on the upper portion of the Nicholas building on the left. A photographic representation again on the Nicholas building. The fixtures are located actually on a metal canopy. And then here on the former Bioso building, which is actually Columbus Dispatch headquarters. These fixtures again are all located on mortar joints at this lower location. Just a graphic representation of the beam angles from all these fixtures. And then just a couple of renderings of the illuminated sculpture at night.
When I look at these, I notice there's no light on the building. Is that by design?
No light on the building.
Right, from the
Yeah.
same picture.
Yes, it is by design. The fixtures are very specifically designed to only illuminate the sculpture itself and not the building. Which I think really helps it kind of pop because it's, you know, if you guys have checked out Van Eckelman's site at all to see the sculptures she's done around the world, you'll note that particularly at night, they are effective because they are just floating pieces. The structural system, the structural rope system goes away at night. So all you have left is this floating artistic net sculpture illuminated. So it's quite effective.
Thank you.
Lights on timer, or they will be on, are they on timer, the lights?
Yes, yeah, they'll be on timer. And
What is the duration?
what's the stipulation?
No, what's the duration?
Hasn't been selected yet, but I would think, you know, after dusk and probably they would go off. I'm just guessing maybe 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock during the week, or 12 o'clock on the weekend, something like that.
So you said that this project has gone through the Downtown Commission and the Historic Preservation Commission. Are there any specific comments from residential units about that you heard?
Not a single one. Nope. Move on to the. These are the structural drawings. These are all. This is construction document level structural documents, and they're a little overwhelming. So I've tried to highlight in yellow the relevant. Starting at the. This is starting at the Nicholas building, which is the northeast corner building. The information on the right is the structural steel members that will be added to the roof of the Nicholas building to support a high attachment point. These pieces will all be, none of them will be visible because they're all at roof level and will be hidden by a parapet, which is the case in all four of the buildings, well, three of the buildings. The image on the left, in the top left corner there is a small attachment point low on the Nicholas building, just below a second story cornice. It's only about a 12-inch incision into the building facade there. Okay. This is the northeast corner. Again, all these structural modifications made to the roof level of the old dispatch building will be concealed from pedestrian view because they're roof level and kind of hidden by the parapet. Basically having to construct a flat truss, 2 locations on this roof to transfer the horizontal load into the structure of the building here. This is the attachment point for the old modern finance building. So this is the southeast corner. Again, the top right highlights the 3 primary structural steel members that will be added to the roof. This is actually an old wood building, which does not do well with a lateral force applied to it, so we're having to transfer the load all the way back to the masonry elevator shaft and stairwell shaft. And then lastly, this is the Citizens Building, which is the most historic of the buildings. It's actually listed individually on the Columbus Register. And for that reason, we've tried to really stay away from the parapet. This is the tallest of the 4 buildings. And so the attachment point, the rope coming down from this roof level is pretty steep. For that reason, and because of the height of the parapet of this building, we actually have to place these arms on top of the structural steel table to get the rope over top of the parapet and clear it and not compromise it in any way. So there will actually be 2 arms projecting about 12 inches over the face of the building, about 20 feet back from High Street. I think that's it. I think if you want to look at the renderings, the top 3 left images, just again to kind of refresh everybody's memory, kind of overview, if you will. And this is looking to the north along High Street. You see the sculpture kind of rises up as it fades to the west. And the blue fiber, if anybody cares to see any of the materials, I have them here. The blue fiber in the sculpture will become more dominant as it moves to the west in reference to our crystal blue river we have down the street. And then the red fibers are reminiscent of dominant brick usage in downtown Columbus. And then this is an east-west view. One aspect of the sculpture that's unique for Janet Eckelman is that these low attachment points are critical to creating this kind of an abstracted arch form over the street, which of course is one of the primary influences of the sculptural form. I think that's it. Questions for me?
Do you want to go through any of your other materials or?
I don't think so. I think I've included a couple other reference materials that we've submitted. One was a very detailed maintenance document. These sculptures will be inspected and maintained even more regularly than a typical Eckelman sculpture because they will be removed every fall and reinstalled every spring. So that will give us the opportunity to do pretty thorough inspections of the sculptures. The other, I think, piece of material that was submitted is an installation guide. So we worked with a rigging consultant to detail how the sculpture will actually be installed and deinstalled every year, which will be an involved process. We'll have to shut down the street. It'll be probably on a Sunday evening or something, whatever the lowest traffic day is, and get lifts and cranes out and install, deinstall in that manner. I think that's all the materials.
The material that you have on the table, Don?
Oh, yes. If anybody cares, I'll just pass this around. It's pretty space age stuff. This piece represents the primary structural rope used, and this is a kind of a secondary structural rope. And then the other piece that's passing around is actually the sculptural net material, which is a much lighter, obviously, material, and it will be kinetic. It'll be billowing and attached to the structural system, so the wind will gently move it around. It's a nice aspect of the sculpture.
And I imagine these are materials that the artist has used in previous sculptures and that they are tested.
Yes, time tested, and that's one of the greatest things about us engaging Eckelman is she's got a time tested approach here. I believe the oldest sculpture is in Porto, Portugal, that was installed 16 or 17 years ago and is still in place.
The reason you're taking it down over the winter?
Well, yes, though the sculpture can be designed to withstand with high wind loads, it cannot withstand the potential for ice accumulation. So a freezing and rain event would potentially add so much weight to the sculpture that it could compromise the structural net.
How long did the color fastness of the rope? Do we have some
Yeah, good
data on that?
question. It will be subject to eventual UV degradation. We're actually purchasing two sculptural nets, so we'll have attic stock, if you will. So when the sculptural net material does fade, we'll replace it. We would anticipate that's somewhere around 7 years, 6 or 7 years.
It's the track record of these sculptures of, things debris getting caught in it somehow.
Yeah, that's a good question. We don't have any evidence of that sort of thing happening. I'm sure leaves do get caught in it and an occasional plastic bag and such, but it must move out because of the wind and the motion of the sculpture. In addition, of course, we'll have the opportunity twice a year to remove any debris that might get caught in the sculpture. But it doesn't seem to be an issue in the multiple installations around the world. Again, going back to the whole time tested thing here with her pieces, it's comforting to know they withstand time.
What are your plans for signage and the artist's credit?
Yeah, good question. We don't have any plans right now. I have noticed on some of her other sculptures, I believe, a very discreet little metal plaque somewhere with at least the title of the sculpture, which is current. Beyond that, we haven't really made any plans.
Do we have a title on this yet?
Yeah, the title is current
Sure.
in reference to the river, in reference to the electrification of the arches that were installed over High Street, in reference to the technological advancement of the city, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Don, could you comment on the status of the public service review?
Sure. We are working through the various departments. There are 4 or 5 departments that have given us feedback. Of those, 2 are fire and traffic. We have a meeting next week with traffic, and then we're still working through with fire. I think the other departments really just raised questions that need to be answered. We still need to work through some issues with fire and traffic at this point, which we hope to do here within the next 30 days.
Other questions? Good. So we're approving, yes?
So the motion, also on the agenda that I gave you, the motion is for the commission to approve the design and placement of the artwork current over the intersection of Gay and North High Street in downtown Columbus per code section 311504B.
Yes. And this then would include, of course, permission from fire and traffic.
They're separate, but it wouldn't happen if the right-of-way
Yep.
approval is
Good,
given,
good.
so.
Well, let's have a vote.
You have a motion?
Almost.
I'll second.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Great, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And next up, we have an application for an art project called Weaving Intersections in Schiller Park by Marcia Armstrong. Hi there.
Appreciate you all coming and meeting for the third time. I think it was third time trying here. Is it okay to take this?
Sure.
Well, I'm a little bit on the other side of the spectrum. Mine's a little more low tech. But nevertheless, I'm very excited to present this to you. We can do one of two things, I think. We can follow, what I did is I just responded to each of the prompts on the application. So we can respond to that. I can just talk to you informally about the project, whatever you feel would
Perhaps
be.
if we go to the images of your project,
Yes,
and if you want to reference what you did at Arboretum,
Absolutely.
Chadwick, right, Arboretum, that would give the commissioner some idea.
And that's going to be towards the bottom of that, yeah.
Well, while that's being pulled up, if you'd like to talk about your background a little bit.
Sure. I have been an artist in the Columbus area for many, many years. I have spent most of my adult artist life as a studio potter. I was one of the first to renovate a studio down in the Short North, Armstrong Lance Studios. I work a lot with the Ohio Craft Museum. I have sold my work throughout the country. I would go to some of the larger craft fairs sponsored by the American Craft Council and work through that venue, as well as most generally having a studio here in Columbus as well. I've probably taught everywhere. But I recently got involved, I believe, in 2014 in the Master Gardener program. And I love that so much. And I was trying to find a way to integrate, my love for gardening and what I was learning in that with my studio work. So my practice kind of evolved and kind of changed a little bit at that point. So this is, I don't want to say it's really a new venture for me, but it is, pushing my journey out in a little different direction, which I'm very happy to do. I did, the project I'm proposing to you now in Schiller Park really is sort of an iteration of what I did last summer at the Chadwick Arboretum Research Lake. And it was a project that truly did integrate what I know, what I like, what I want to say about the natural world, and with my process of making things. So the materials that I use are natural and buoyant by nature. I chose to use the site as over at Chadwick in the Willow Grove. My materials were mostly willow and bamboo. And so there was a connection there, but the better connection was that I sort of followed my path to this science that I've gotten involved in, geobotany. And the whole process of geobotany is to, what's underneath reflects what's on top. And so the concept behind this whole thing was sort of a filtration system, how, there's all these micro ecosystems around. So that was sort of the base of this. That's probably way more than you want to know. But anyway, that's the jumping off point for what I'm proposing here at Schiller Park. That is the site that we will install in. I have met with the Friends of German Village, and they seem to be very excited about it. We have decided to do it, positioned it pretty close to the bridge that you're seeing right there. That way, I think that the viewers can access it in multiple ways, multiple perspectives. Probably a little easier for me to install that way. And then we're also making sure that we provide clearance with the other sculptures that are at Schiller Park. That is a very rough preliminary drawing that you see. What you'll see there is the whole premise of this is that I will be constructing some floating gardens. And the floating gardens will be integrated into these bamboo forms that will float. I think that based on what I did 2 years ago, these will be larger forms, maybe about 3 feet across. And then somewhere in that form, I'll be integrating a garden. And there again, that kind of merges my interest, my love for the natural world into these pieces. I kind of see them as meditative. You can, I'll have lots of documentation, lots of materials on them. You can or the viewer will kind of take it however he or she chooses to. They can see it like that. I'll have, I'll have a way to scan it so they can see more documentation on it. So there'll be multiple layers again on how a viewer wants to view it and how much time he or she decides to spend with it. Here's a view of my very preliminary research on the kind of color bars that I'll be using inside of these forms. It's tricky because these they don't have to be sustainable, but I'd like to have them up for around 6 or 7 days. And so I'm looking for plant material that can sustain that kind of waterlogging, if you will. I'm looking for plant material that certain characteristics, qualities of the root systems. So I have some allies that I've been working with. I have a horticulturalist from the Arboretum that I'm working with. Let's see. I have actually also have contacted a gentleman who's worked with some floating gardens in Bangladesh, and he's giving me some material in terms of the substrate that I would use. So I'm combining a lot of resources. I have a lot of collaborators on this because that, that part is the key part right there. This is some of the signage that I used for the project that I had at Chadwick. You can kind of get an idea of what these things look like. They float, they're buoyant. Each one is different, which they will be at Schiller Park as well. But just imagine that somewhere in those forms, we'll insert a garden. Materials won't change a whole lot. Primarily be just me working on them. Just me installing them, just me financing them.
The garden sections going to be in a basket form?
Kind of. This is what I'm thinking. And on my timeline, I wanted to talk to you all first before I, really got moving on that part of it. But I think what I'm going to do is actually make the baskets out of the material that I'm using for the forms. And then I've done quite a bit of research on the substrate now. And I think that would, first of all, I think that would be most congruous to the form. I think I have more control that way. It'd be kind of a softer look, I think. So the answer is, yes, I'm going to use the same materials for the basket. Not sure exactly how yet, but I'll get there.
Did I hear you say that you plan for the installation to be up really for just about a week?
Yes.
Is Schiller Park, are you planning any kind of events around this? Because it's such a limited time span,
right? Yeah. I hope so. Again, I wanted to get through this hurdle before we really, nailed anything down. One thing I do know, I've talked a lot to Catherine Moore, who is the head of Friends of Schiller Park or whatever, and she and I decided that one thing we might try to do is do a little work with the schools around the area, because unfortunately the kids will be out of school by the time this is installed. So it might be kind of nice to, create some kind of an awareness with them that this is going on and this is part of the process. And, you know, try to reach out like that. I'm also actually conducting a workshop next month through the Ohio Craft Museum. And it's actually going to kind of be a mini thing of what I'm doing for Schiller Park. So I'll be reaching out like that. I'll be reaching out through social media. I'll have some kind of signage, you know, there, and hopefully there may be some other events that we'll plan. What I did learn from Chadwick is I will have specific times that I will be there. Sort of an open discussion, kind of a conversation thing. What happened at Chadwick was that I was there all the time. And so maybe on the signage or something, I can just say, you know, artist talk, blah, blah, blah. So hopefully like that. I've also noticed, and I go down to Schiller Park quite a bit, there are tons of people walking those walkways.
You could actually explore the park.
Yeah,
When it kicks up again.
and so, and I love Schiller Park. I've also worked in the Huntington Gardens, which is part of Schiller Park. So in a way, it's kind of homage to that. There's a little reciprocity going back and forth that way. I'm also probably going to resource a lot of my plants from Chadwick Arboretum. They have a spring sale, which would coincide with when I'll start my growing. And again, that would be a nice reciprocal kind of thing. So other than that, I'm just gonna kind of see what's out there as I go along, I guess. So it's not a very good answer, but that's what I had. So
I think it's a good answer.
I would love you to reach out to, you know, more organizations that might have summer camps around the area. Columbus Parks and Rec, they have summer camps at the Schiller Park, you know, around that time. Because I think it's a great opportunity to expose children, you know, to the idea of installation, the ephemeral quality of artwork, you know, and because, you know, this is not something that they got exposed to in like a formal art classes, you know, so I think it is a, you know, it's a great opportunity for you to, you know, to talk to the children and, you know, just the neighbors around the area too.
absolutely.
Yeah, Serva House, I think.
Transit arts would be another really good one.
What do you say?
Transit arts?
Transit arts?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
they'd be great.
Right, right.
Call their own.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Get a bus.
good idea.
They use that as their hands to help.
Yeah, yeah,
build.
that's great. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Although, and from a safety perspective, I don't know, you probably know more about the ponds, for example, yeah? Just making sure that, yeah, you are safe too installing and, yeah.
Well, I have a plan for that, and that right there is the caveat where we are right now. In order for me to go ahead with this after I speak with you all, I have to get, what is that, HOC from Tina?
An MOU.
MOU,
from
that's right.
Recreation Parks, they're generally supportive, they want to make sure that the commission is supportive, but they are asking for the project to be indemnified, with the city listed as an additional insured, which is
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah.
And that's where, that's the little caveat right now. I'm not exactly sure how that's gonna work out. Lori gave me some ideas to follow up on too, for the insurance aspect of it.
Well, outside of the insurance aspect, what was your desired time frame for install?
How long will it take for me to install, you mean?
When?
I'm thinking mid-July.
Oh, that's great.
Uh-huh.
Actually,
That's, yeah.
Going strong then.
Yeah, I have just a little bit of latitude in there because what I'll do is I'll get my starts and then I'll take them to my studio and nurture them and put them in their containers. And so there's going to be just a little bit of wiggle room from that standpoint, but we're shooting for mid-April. I think the timeframe is, or I'm sorry, mid-July to maybe first part of August, somewhere in that timeframe. And to respond to your question too about the safety aspects of it, I have to talk to Parks and Rec a little bit more about this, but I have a little inflatable boat that that's part of what I did when I was at Chadwick. The way I understand it, the pond at Schiller Park is very shallow, but it has some kind of a protective layer below it. And so before I actually, as you saw, put on waders and kind of got out there, I don't think I'll be able to do that. But if I can get out on this inflatable boat, kind of drop my weights that way, I think it should work okay for my own safety.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking about signage, not just for the completed project, but also while it's in progress, while installation is in progress. I think it would be really wonderful and helpful for there to be some context, because if the park
Because
is
there's a
really
ton of
going to
foot
be
traffic,
busy,
they'll
yeah,
be asking questions. As you see.
Yeah.
Do you have, how do you see that, or do you?
I would just do a yard sign, the little
Oh.
stick thing, and then get like 2, 3, or 4 of them and do the perimeter of the pond. So people are coming from every direction. I think they would
Mhm.
love to know. Someone had done on a boat in there.
Well, that'd be kind of fun. I could do kind of like a work in progress
Yeah.
sort of thing and kind of make that an event also. Even put some orange fencing around or something. I don't know.
very much. I think
I agree.
that's the direction.
Uh-huh,
That's
okay.
something to discuss with Recreation and Forest
Okay.
and Friends of Schiller.
Yeah.
Make sure that, both
a lot of our
has language
happening.
about that, and Friends of Schiller may be able to help you with the signage,
Okay.
provide assistance to artists, so
That would be great.
talk to them.
I had a question about,
Sure.
I know this is a bit of a long shot, but I'm glad you're working with a horticulturalist and you've also done this at Chadwick. But the plants that you're selecting, are those, they're not going to introduce anything into the pond?
Absolutely not. And that's a very good question because a lot of the water plants are invasive plants.
Yeah.
The lilies and so forth. So no, I am not.
Okay.
Thanks for asking. Yeah. I'll be working also with parks maintenance, and I'm sure that all the cultivars that are selected, will go through them as well. And I don't know what they have over there. I'm sure they have horticulturalists that would check out that list as well. I'm also working with a fellow at OSU who's an extension professor, I guess you'd call him. And he and I will vet through that process too, because no, I do not want to introduce anything that's invasive. I don't think they'd like that. That's a very good question, yeah. And actually it makes it hard because the ones that really are suitable for the project really are kind of invasive.
Oh,
To some extent, so.
thanks.
Yeah.
Aware of that.
I have a lot more material. I wasn't sure what to expect today. I do have hard copies responding to all the prompts on the application, if anyone would like them. If not, that's perfectly okay.
just getting hit by an ice storm right now. So as I said, we're here today to talk to you about the Starling Garage concepts. So if you may recall, I believe we were here in September of last year. Anyway, fall of last year to give an overview of the process. So as part of this project, there are 4 different pieces of artwork that are being proposed. 1 large-scale sculptural element and 3 mural elements. So in order to facilitate this process, Designing Local worked with CDDC, Amy Taylor, who's here, who is the project manager from CDDC for this project. And we did parallel processes where we had a selection of the sculptural element as well as the 3 muralists. We did an RFQ where we requested qualifications from artists for both of those projects, whittled those down, received proposals, and ultimately the selection committee, which Lisa was a member of, selected 3 muralists and 1 sculptor. So you've had this information, so I'm not going to get in detail because I know we're limited with time, but we can go ahead and go through the proposals for the sculptures. So the selected artist ultimately was inspired by Starling Garage to bring forward this proposal that is very kind of kinetic in nature and really draws on this like interesting coloration and movement of starlings. And I will say, I think all of the artists, for the most part, were inspired by kind of the natural elements that are connected because this project is really close to the river. And I think that's exciting just to bring that element into what we're seeing here. So you can go ahead forward to the next step. So here's the proposed sculpture. So it's made up of a number of smaller pieces that are reflective and really bring in those kind of different aspects of the coloration of the starling, which is very vibrant. And so these will be suspended from the opposite facing sides of the parking garage. And this is, again, the initial, proposal that was selected. So we will be going through greater design development, which will, I think, be brought back forward, once we have completed the design development elements of this. So any questions about the sculpture before we move on to the murals?
What materials for the sculpture?
I believe the materials are, I think they're metal, and I think the exact configuration and method of suspending the various pieces will be developed more during the design development process. But overall, the concept is to have, a variety of these smaller birds, and then the paint. I think the way the artist described it is like the paint that you have on a car. So these will be like incandescent and very reflective, and it have, if you really look at like a beautiful car, I guess, you have those kind of specks of vibrant material within it.
Metal plate.
Iridescence.
Yeah, iridescence. Yes, there you go. And they would be lit at night. That I think would help even further expand upon the iridescence. I think that, to me, that's one of the most interesting qualities about it is this.
The structure is also really interesting, the way they described it. They have main pieces that are laser cut to look like they're all loose, and then they'll have like a few that hang off of that to give it sort of an organic feel.
So they're each individually mounted to the side of the building, or is there some hardware of some kind?
I think
The armature is through the laser cut pieces that are all together, so there's a very few number that are looser from that. So it's ultimately, I guess, 3 pieces that would kind of jigsaw together and
Yeah.
mount to the building. So there's not a lot of mount points on the building.
So the armature is mounted to the garage building, looks like.
Yes.
yes, yep.
Yeah. I think there was talk of adjusting the positioning for the window. They're not mounted on the windows in any way.
Yeah, they're not interacting with the windows, and we will in the future, once he moves into design development, we'll see more detailed drawings of how that actually all interacts. I think that the artist has, the concept there, but of course, working with the architect and CDDC and everyone, we'll get more detailed drawings and really understand exactly how that works and how it looks prior to installation. And then the murals, so we have, you're seeing the locations for the murals. These are actually panels, so they are cementitious panels, and will be affixed to the joints of mortar joints of the building. The garage is brick, and so there will be the 3 different murals that we can, you're kind of just seeing concepts there, but if you go to the next one, I think you should. Okay, so yeah, you'll see the first concept here is by Lucy Shearer. And if you, I think, there you go. So full scale rendering. There you go. So this is mural number 1 by Lucy Shearer. Go on to the next. Adam Hernandez. With one of the god masks, and this is inspired by the deer, Sayo does, the indigenous word for deer. And then Nick Stoll. You see the deer there. So lots of this kind of natural world inspiration. Any questions about that? One thing I can add is just, I think this is in the application, but for the record, that the 3 artists that proposed sculptures, they were compensated each $1,500 per proposal. And each of the muralists, we had 6 finalists that, for the mural. They were each compensated $300 for their proposal, and 1 artist was asked to do 2 concepts. They were compensated for both.
I love how all the artists really studied, Scioto and the meaning and the history of it. They really brought that into their art.
Are you planning to have signage for these pieces?
I assume that's something we will likely have. That's not something we've discussed yet, but I think as we get further into the development, there would definitely be signage, and particularly for the murals and then the larger scale sculpture, I think we have something as well.
Potentially even trying to tie together some of the themes that the artists use, again, to draw attention to kind of the larger meaning.
And I think one thing that is kind of left out in the context of just looking at that flat face of the garage is that this is part of a large scale development, as you can see rising over there on the peninsula. And so I think that this is really going to have a great feel and is going to be interacted with a lot of people. And I liken it to the artwork that is in the convention center garage, which is, a fabulous installation as well. And I think that you'll have a lot of people interacting with this. And I really think that the exterior location of the starlings will be really vibrant and impactful for people.
The installation with the starlings, that's just an exterior installation, right? You do not plan for that to kind of weave through the interior.
No. I mean, love that concept.
I know, I do too. Yeah.
It's just because it's mounted on the windows, or at least, it seems like there's a potential for that.
Yeah. Question?
I wanted, as I'm looking at this, will there be a chance for ne'er-do-wells to touch it or damage it in any sense?
I don't think so. If you look at the bottom, I mean, it's pretty high up off the ground. You're looking at that ground floor window. And I think that's above human height,
Yeah,
for the most part.
those are windows along the side of the building.
Oh, on the,
Corners.
yeah, I think that we'll have to look at that and pay attention to that and make sure. I mean, I think that'll be something that both the CDDC and the garage architect and our team and the artist will probably all be thinking about, making sure that, we're looking through those. One other thing I was going to add is we will be working with a conservator to assess all the, different maintenance needs and all the those potential complications after design development, but prior to installation, so that we can
Yeah,
make sure to
we
get that.
talked about being slightly concerned about birds' nests and whatnot, but,
They are birds, so but
Yeah.
yes. But yeah, just like with any other installation, we'll make sure we're thinking about all those potential pitfalls prior to the installation.
And starlings like to nest in these, little tents and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Actually, that would be really kind of amazing if it became a hub for a
Whole
real
nother level of
starling.
Well, they're back right now. I've noticed them outside my window, so.
Do we have other questions? I think we're ready for our motion.
So the motion is to approve the execution of the artwork, or is just the conceptual approval?
To approve the design and placement of the artwork. So what you're
Would
looking
they
at
come
is the
back
final.
to tell us about the details in terms of it?
You can, do you have any information about the installation of the piece?
I think our preference would be for the motion to approve the design and placement, and then, of course, we're collaborative. We'll definitely bring back the final information just for your, just so everybody knows what's happening with it.
So would you be comfortable with conceptual, or are you full?
I think we would respectfully request approval and an understanding that, we will come back with all those, but we get conceptual, and we've got a really short time frame. We're hoping that they begin actually putting this up in the next few months. The garage will be done in March, and will be officially open to the public in June. And so the murals and everything, that shouldn't be a problem at all to open June. We're gonna be tight with the sculpture, but that gets up in July, but, we pushed back everything just to really make this meeting the chance for, if there's any way that we could do anything to make you feel comfortable, but get that approval today, that would be great. And I should recommend, Lisa was kind enough to serve on our committee, and she was,
Yeah.
great asset.
Secret chat.
So it could be added to the motion that there's an understanding that the applicants will return with the information for the installation application of the piece to the garage.
And
Yeah.
also maintenance.
Yes, and so this is the city-owned garage, and we are working directly with Robert Bigard, and we would be more than happy to come back. This plan. The nice part is though, because the city owner, there is a natural element or, folks who are going to be.
Yeah, I mean, if we can word the motion that we will submit that, but that won't hold up
Yep.
things on our end, just because we know the timing can be problematic. But there's the intention to make sure everybody knows what that looks like, but just with the time frame.
So I would suggest that there's a motion before the commission to approve the design and placement of the 4 Argus proposals for the Starling Garage as submitted and outlined in the application materials, and with the understanding that the applicants will return with the attachment information and a conservator's report that would cover, that the conservator's report will cover any troubleshooting that the conservator feels needs to happen, as well as maintenance. They'll be reviewing artist maintenance. That be acceptable.
So that's the motion before.
I motion.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
We're
Okay, so, we're good?
Yeah,
we're good.
thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Pat.
Just quickly, when do you think you might be back for that information?
Oh, I mean, I would say as soon as we can. Yeah, I would venture to guess a month, 2 months, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you.
Amanda was saying hi.
What was that?
Oh, Amanda was saying hi.
I will, yeah, she would have been here had it been last week, but next time we'll both come.
And last, we have the Owen Trail mural project with the Harrison West Art Society.
My name is Eric Alessandrini. I'm the president of the nonprofit Harrison West Arts, and we are seeking final approval of the Olentangy Trail mural project, which will be painted on the west side of State Route 315 northbound. We previously received approval for the original version at the top here. However, ODOT was concerned about the top 30 inches of the mural being slightly visible from the highway. And they let us know that we could either do a solid color or gradient, and that would be acceptable. We've spoken with ODOT since the design has been revised, and they have approved our new version. They only need final approval today to issue us the permit, and pending that approval, we will begin installation June 1st. Our artist is Ashley Pierce. She has previously done the east-facing side of this mural that faces the riverfront. And that, with the exception of the construction that's happening around 3rd and Olentangy right now, you would be able to see it if you walk the trail, but currently the trail is blocked from construction.
So it did receive full approval in July. Applicants were not aware of ODOT's concerns in the previous conversation. So as Eric mentioned, the artist had to go back and work within the requests of ODOT. The new version that you see underneath the original is the preferred design, as I understand it.
Correct.
To the, okay. So that's the preferred version, and then there's one other alternate version that could also be used. So
What is the reason of ODOT's concern, the 30 inches?
They didn't want it to be a distraction of drivers driving on 315 southbound.
Yeah, they're real.
Yeah. We did a drive-by video shoot from the back seat of a car just to see, and you can, it's difficult to see, but I understand that safety is the main concern.
Yeah.
So Ashley was kind enough to,
I think it's specifically the brightness of the yellow.
what's that?
I think it's specifically the brightness of the yellow in the sun rays.
Yeah, sure.
So this is a good update, even though she backed off the stars as well.
I think the new version provides a nice balance to the
Yeah.
entire.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it compromises the integrity of the piece.
Yeah, I like the gradient, I like the glow it creates on the hill.
Well, do we have any other questions?
So the motion before the commission is to approve the revised mural as submitted by the Harrison West Art Group and Harrison West Society as shown in the submitted application materials.
A motion.
Second.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Eric.
Thank you. Thanks for the update.
Appreciate it.
When do you think to be started?
June 1st,
Ah.
and it should be complete by July 13th, but she does have until the end of the month complete to get it done. She just has a residency that's about a 10 or 11 days, toward the end of July, so she definitely won't be working on it during that.
Great, look forward to seeing you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I just want to very quickly let you know or update you on the Christopher Columbus Statue Committee, the RFP that we released. We are re-releasing it. The committee wasn't, or the panel, interview panel wasn't entirely comfortable with the submission that they reviewed. One wasn't reviewed because of the technicality. And we are hopefully reissuing it later this next week at the latest. So it would be this month, but really into this month for another 30 days. And the other thing that we'll be doing is adding some more. It's a tricky RFP, and how it was originally posted by vendor services was the return of the Christopher Columbus statue, which was very really obscured the fact that it's an examination. It's not definitive at this point.
Right.
So, some folks might not have wanted to apply because they thought it was just simply the piece going back. I've written some language about the city and the committee's desire to really explore the possibility of returning it to a public location, but talking about being mindful and empathetic to the concerns that led to its removal to begin with, as well as certainly the concerns of people who, the Italian community who didn't want it to be removed, but really looking at it from a more balanced perspective and the educational piece that we hope that comes along with it. So it's not just simply putting the sculpture back out there, but putting it out there with contextual information, engaging contextual information, and an ongoing learning opportunity for people who want to kind of continue this discussion about Native American history, Black history, immigrant history in the city of Columbus in particular, and a little bit from a national perspective, but really the perspective that every immigrant class that comes over, particularly we've had groups of people from other countries that have come over, just the response that has happened within our country to those individuals. And it hasn't always been a pleasant experience for them. And that kind of maturation within our country and our society. Just to kind of, that was one of the, I think, points of the Italian representatives, that the importance of the statue for them really was related to them feeling that, they finally had a symbol that was important and was, prominent within the city and within their culture. And so, I did a better job in the writing, but just trying to give whoever's looking at the RFP a broader understanding of why this was happening and what we were hoping to achieve.
So you received one proposal?
We received two. One wasn't able to be reviewed because of a technicality that they didn't reach within the requirements of the RFP. So the panel talked about it and they decided that they'd like to reach.
Were they local proposals?
Yes, they were.
Mm-hmm.
They were. Can't really get into the details.
No, I understand. Yeah, thanks for letting me ask these questions.
Confidential, but
Yeah.
I don't think that this extra month is going to be a hardship. Moving this forward, if this is what it takes to get hopefully more responses.
Mhm.
friendship between two cities. But if someone clicked on the link to vendor services at that time, they left off the word examination of the potential return of the Christopher Columbus statue, because they only have so many words, characters that they can use for the announcement on vendor services. So it showed up initially as, or it showed up as a return of the Christopher Columbus statue. When you clicked on it, you would get the full title. But, you know, you have to click through, and some folks might not when they saw that. It's
How
possible.
many invitations were sent? Or it sounds like direct invitations were sent.
I would say 10. I mean, we have asked, and if you have ideas of other places that we could send invitations to, be more than happy to do that. But then it's posted on the city's vendor services website. Forget, it was shared through another. I think it was, I'm not sure it was posted with Americans for the Arts or not. But we're trying to get it out as much as we possibly can and really look to, it's probably an sort of a multifaceted consultant team that would be engaged in something like this. And, we'll do our best to see if we can add some more folks to that. So if you have ideas. Any thoughts? Because we're right at 1:45.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you all for making this special hearing. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. My apologies for fumbling through the swearing formality.
That's okay.
Not here.
And Lisa did ask a question about a possible return to a 5:30
Right.
start for the Art Commission. Heard from a lot of you. I don't think, Eliza, I've heard from you yet. It's whether 5:30, a time change to 5:30 would work for you. You don't have to tell me right now, just think it over. And Diane is on vacation, so I haven't heard from her about that either. But it's something that we can discuss at the March here. So with that, if ready to adjourn.
Yes,
Yes.
I think we're ready.
Ready.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.